Hi everyone and welcome back to Geordie Pride, Voices from the North East. On this episode we sit down with football writer Mark Carruthers, who shares his deep-rooted passion for North East football, from childhood memories on the terraces to a career spent covering everything from non-league games to the wider football scene. We also hear about Mark's personal experience of watching Newcastle United win the Carabao Cup at Wembley last month, how it made him feel and what it meant to the wider Geordie community. This chat's a celebration of football's spirit, pride and power in the North East, so whether you're black and white through and through or you simply love a good football story, this one is for you. So settle in, grab yourself a cuppa and enjoy our chat with Mark Carruthers. You're listening to Geordie Pride, Voices from the North East. I'm Hayley and alongside my cousin Angela, we're thrilled to bring you the stories that share the heart and soul of the North East of England. Each episode we'll dive into the lives of extraordinary Geordies and those who call the North East home, exploring their journeys and celebrating their achievements. From the time to the teas, from the arts to the sports fields, we're here to share the tales of passion, resilience and of course, Geordie pride. So whether you're from Whitley Bay or Washington, Gateshead or Gisborough, or you're just fascinated by the spirit of the North East, join us as we natter with the best the North East has to offer. Hi Mark, welcome to Geordie Pride. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be invited on.
So let's just dive straight in and we'll get to it. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from in the North East?
Yeah, so I was brought up in Leamington, in the west end of Newcastle. Went to Leamington First School, went to Leamington Middle School, then to Walbottle, one of the biggest schools in that area. And then life got in the way and everything happened. And as it does, moved around the North East, moved to just between Berkeley and Chesley Street. We'll not go too much into that, but and then with my current partner, my wife, moved to Wallsend. So I've kind of done all areas of Tyneside and County Durham here. Yeah, so I've got two kids, both under 12. One's just be 11 in July. My daughter is 6, and they're growing up far too quickly. But in terms of a career, yeah, a freelance journalist covering football in the North East, specialising in the non-league games. So I actually started out at Blythe Spartans as their press officer. Probably not be the last time Blythe will be mentioned in this, I guess.
Definitely
and
not.
Progressed. Definitely not, no. And then got a job editing sort of national non-league website called Non-League Daily, and then went freelance working for the Chronicle Journal, Sunday Sun, Sunderland Echo, Shields Gazette. So that's been what I've been doing for the last near enough 10 years now. So in fact, just over 10 years. So keeps me busy, keeps me moving around the region, but absolutely love it. Tends to focus on sort of non-league football, so it'll be the more local clubs, so the likes of Gateshead, Black Spartans, South Shields, Heat Stanning, clubs like that, Dunstan. So in total, I think they cover about 52 clubs across the North East. Yeah, but also to help out covering Newcastle and Sunderland when I can. Is just a job I love. It's something I wanted to do when I was a kid, but it became abundantly clear that I was not going to be good enough to be a footballer. I thought, what's the next best thing? And that was writing about it. It's just an absolute passion. It's, being able to mix a passion with a job is an amazing thing to do. And I'm very lucky that we have some very big sort of non-league clubs in the region that are some of the biggest and most well-known across the country. And it's just an absolute dream. It is. I mean, I've worked at Wembley, so I'll be going to Wembley again next month with Spennymoor Town. I think it'll be about my 12th time I've been to Wembley reporting on a North East club, which is just amazing. And obviously it was there last month, but I dare say we'll come on to that in a bit as well. I should say I grew up as a Newcastle fan. Had a season ticket at St James's with my dad. First went to St James's at the age of 5 in 1988, which seems a long time ago now. Actually had my son at his first Premier League game last week, and he was asking about the differences when I went to my first game, and it was just one of the most depressing experiences of my life. I'm going to explain all the differences, the time that had passed and everything that had happened. But
It doesn't feel that long ago, the 80s, does it? It's like, I'm sure that was only like 10 years ago.
Well, I'm convinced I'm sort of mid to late 20s now.
Yeah.
But that sort of facade is slipping very quickly as the grey hairs continue to grow. So, but yeah, I mean, the club, it means everything. It has for my whole family. I mean, my dad used to go with my granddad. My great granddad used to take my granddad. We've been going since the early 1900s as a family. And actually, the getting to the Carabao Cup final last month meant that we kept the record going up. We've been to every single cup final Newcastle had played in since the very early 1900s, which was proud for more reasons than the result. The club's just always been central to the family from as early as I can remember. But in terms of work, I mean, it keeps me busy. I mean, last season I worked at 104 games, so it was throughout a sort of nine-month period. So it was a lot to take on. Thankfully, I've got a very, very understanding wife. Yeah.
So how many games do you go in a week, like normally? Like,
so it'll be anywhere sort of 2 to 3 for this weekend. We're getting towards the back end of the season now, so it's sort of quieting down a bit. But this weekend, having a game tomorrow night. I should say we're recording this on Thursday, but on Friday night at Newcastle Blue Star, so back near my old home in Leamington, and then I'm at South Shields on Saturday afternoon. But Easter weekend's crazy, so I think over the sort of Good Friday, Saturday, and Easter Monday, I think I'm working at 5 games in sort of 3 days. So that'll keep me very busy.
I bet. So how did you get into writing about football? I don't even know, where do you start with that?
Well, the traditional route was to go to university and do a journalism degree, which was my original plan when I was in sixth form at Warbottle. But yeah, things got in the way. We'll leave it at that without going too deep. And then life sort of took me in a different direction. So I worked in the Metro Centre, believe it or not. I worked in retail for I think 5-6 years. Then went into working for an energy company, but I'd always blogged. I've been sort of either writing in the old-fashioned way or blogging when sort of the internet so launched properly. And then it would have been 2012, 13, around that time. Blythe Spartans were looking for a press officer. It was a voluntary role, but I thought it's a good kind of grounding, a good way to get experience. And I'm probably making light of this. Everything just kind of grew from there, really. I had some great experiences, met some amazing people who worked for Blythe. They had a brilliant FA Cup run where I got to see how the national media worked and how the standards that they carry. We're very lucky in the North East that we've got an amazing group of journalists who work for the national media outlets. So just try to take as much as I could from them and learn from them. And then at the end of the FA Cup run, the editor of Non-League Daily was at one of our press conferences. He said, "Look, I'm stepping down next month. They're looking for someone local to step into the role. It's a professional role. It's a paid role. It's full-time work. Would you be interested?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course I would." So I'd say I went for an interview, but it wasn't even an interview. It was just a casual chat, almost as if what we're doing here. On the Tuesday afternoon, and then on the Thursday night, got a phone call saying, "Would you be interested in the role? We want to offer you the role. Here's what we can offer." And I don't think the words had come out of the mouth when I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." So handed my notice in on the Friday with the energy company that I was working for, and then started on the following 2 weeks' notice, and then started on the Monday, and everything kind of snowballed from there. But I've had some amazing experiences, stuff like worked on, I don't remember the made TV channels that when it was Made in Tiny Way used to be on. On Virgin and stuff like that. But I worked on a show called Football Matters with Olivia Bernard, who played for Newcastle, and Julio York played for Sunderland. One of my good friends, Andy Sixsmith, hosted it. He's now working for the Premier League, so it was a good ground. Andy's a great guy. We're actually meeting on the quayside for a drink next week, funny enough. So got to learn a lot more about the sort of that side of the media, doing that. But just everything's just like I say, snowballed through them. It's sort of local journalists who the Chronicles non-league content's always been done by freelancers near enough, certainly for the last 10, 12 years. So they had a chat with me and said, would you be interested in taking on our non-league content? And that was followed by the Sunderland Echo as well. So work went very hectic within the space of about 12 months from, I wouldn't say a relaxed role, but from where I felt in control to all of a sudden having work coming out of my ears, which was interesting. But like I said, sometimes it doesn't even feel like work because of what I cover. It is, and there are times when it is a challenge, but most of the time I just think I'm sitting right about football. If you told 10-year-old Mark that was happening, I would have been over the moon. So
it's because you're enjoying it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And like I say, it's not without its challenges, and I think that without getting too deep into the rise of social media and everything that brings can be a kind of downfall at times, but largely I've escaped, I would say, series. I don't want to say abuse because that's not right, but I haven't had too much stick, we'll say that, on social media. But it's going to come, you can't please everyone, and particularly when you're writing, opinion-based pieces, you are going to get stick because not everyone's going to agree with you, but that's why I kind of love my job, I can put opinions out there and have interesting conversations.
Is there any particular time or like maybe is a person that you've interviewed that you've thought, oh, do you know what, I really enjoyed that was something that's going to stand out? That
Yeah, so I remember the first time I interviewed Alan Shearer was working for the TV show, and
So jealous.
It's not very often that I get starstruck, but with Alan the first time I was still very new to it, so it was like, oh, well, okay. And he was brilliant, just answered everything I asked of him, and was excellent. But on the same day, I think I interviewed sort of Les Ferdinand, who's played for Newcastle, and Robert Lee, Keith Gillespie, John Beresford. So people I grew up watching. So it was
all the
just
90s.
Yeah,
I know them.
It's the last time Angela watched football.
Well, up until recently, it was the last time it was worth watching. But
yeah, true.
It's a bit weird because I think one of my first heroes was David Kelly, who played sort of 91 and 93 at Newcastle, and I interviewed him, and I think I was more nervous interviewing him than I was any of the sort of 95, 96 team, which was quite surreal. I didn't expect that to happen, but I remember sitting down and he sort of sat 2 foot in front of me, and I was just like, almost had a mind blank, and it's just like, I've got so many questions, but none of them are coming to the front of my head right now. But yeah, I've been really lucky, and I've got a chance to speak to some of the current players as part of a press pack, and they all seem like pretty down to earth guys, and it's a good time to be a Newcastle fan right now, isn't it?
So besides football, if you could interview anybody past or present, who would it be?
Oh wow, what a question. Probably it'd be someone like John Lennon, when you say so.
That's a good one.
Past.
Yeah.
He's always been.
Shot you.
Breaking
news.
I'd probably try and keep it a bit more lighthearted, but yeah. But no, I think someone like him. I've always been fascinated by Brian Cox. I've always been a bit of a space geek when I was growing up, so I think a sit down with Brian Cox would be amazing.
I thought you meant Brian Cox, the actor, for a second.
The actor, to be honest.
Spaceman.
Yeah, either, I'd be happy with that one as well, to be fair. But
you could have a good conversation with Brian Cox, the spaceman, though, like all about the universe and is there life out there, and God, I'd get lost in that conversation.
It's a really boring answer because it's quite predictable, but I think someone like Stephen Fry, just because I find him fascinating, like how intelligent he is, and so I think I'm also borderline going on my 5 dinner party guests. That's all.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that because Stephen Fry's on my dinner party list.
I think he's on everyone's, isn't he? Because he's just such a fascinating guy. But yeah, just it would have to be someone I could sit down with and have an in-depth conversation and make the most of it. Again, you said not in football, but I think like Sir Bobby Robson, Kevin Keegan. I've met both of them, but they've never done a sit-down interview with them. got amazing experience of introducing my dad to Kevin Keegan. Was found it quite emotional. We were at a fundraising dinner, and yeah, seeing my dad's face when he came over and we had a chat with him was just brilliant. So my dad used to work at Vickers on Scotswood Road, and he ended up working in Germany because of that. And obviously Kevin played in Germany at the time, so I got kind of put to the side in this interview as they talked about life in Germany for about half an hour. Yeah, it was a bit surreal, but it was a great experience.
We kind of knew, because me and Haley are related, we're cousins. Okay. So because we're both from Ashington, we know the Milburns. So Jackie Milburn, the Charltons. So yeah, no, that was because they used to playing football, didn't they, in the back lane together?
Yeah, they were family friends of our family. So it was. And did I tell the story about Mary, Angela, already?
No.
My mum died when I was young, so my dad has got a partner that he's been with for many years now. And about 5 years ago, she told me this story, and I was absolutely amazed. And she just couldn't quite grasp why I was open mouthed. She told me one day that on the day that we won the World Cup, she was babysitting Jack Charlton's children.
Okay.
And I was just like, my mouth dropped, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And she was like, "No," just didn't understand why I was like, "That's amazing." It's like you were babysitting these kids when he was winning the World Cup. Like that's fabulous.
I mean, I sort of grew up listening to my granddad tell me stories about sort of Jackie Milburn. Really, was his era, and then my dad would have only been about 8 when England won the World Cup, so it was probably just as he was getting into football. Grew up on tales of those heroes of theirs. But that's amazing. What a story.
Well, I've got a funny Kevin Keegan story as well, actually. So my husband, he went for a job interview with the company, and the guy heard he was from the northeast, and he was like, "Oh, what team do you support, mate?" And he's like, "Oh, Newcastle." And he's like, "Oh, tell you what." And then he rang someone, and then and got him into the call, and it was Kevin Keegan. So Kevin Keegan joined my husband's job interview. So my husband was just like, and then had a 10-minute chat with Kevin Keegan in this interview, and he ended up getting the job anyway, which is fabulous. But I was like, what a story to be able to say that I was having a job interview and just Kevin Keegan joined in.
That wasn't intentional. The lover thing wasn't intentional, by the way. Kevin's obviously faithful, but yeah, no, that's great.
So we talked a little bit about we alluded to it earlier about the Carabao Cup. Should we talk a little bit about that? Because you were, as you said, lucky enough to be there. Very jealous. I would have absolutely adored it. My husband actually managed to get a ticket for the Arsenal match at St James's prior to it. So we're kind of hoping, he was in the ballot, but he was like in the last bucket. So we're just like, he's not going to get in. But yeah, I would have loved to have been there. Like, what was it like? What was the atmosphere like? Just tell me all about it.
I don't think there's very many times in life where you go through every single emotion possible. But that weekend was absolutely one of those. From the minute I left Newcastle to the minute I got back it was like living a fever dream almost. Just the nerves, the excitement, the anticipation, just such a surreal moment. And I think getting into the stadium where I was sat was quite high up, sort of looking to my right, you had where the war flags display was. And I think that was the first time I got really emotional with seeing that, because I mean the War Flags initiative is just unbelievable, and to see what they put together on the biggest stage that we have in English football, and that was being around the world. I really believe it was a big part of what happened on the pitch, because you could see the players were like almost in all the supporters were. So it was just a remarkable day, and from the very first minute, but from early on in the game, I went from being completely convinced Liverpool were going to win to you know what? I think we're going to do this, because you could tell from, I'd say about 10 minutes in, that Newcastle, because they wanted it more, but certainly seemed more on the game than Liverpool were. It just all of a sudden got really calm. And obviously, you're jumping up and down, you're sitting, doing the usual stuff you do, and the atmosphere was just incredible. I mean, I've not heard an atmosphere like that for a long time, but it was just it'll live with me for the rest of my life. And I wish I could have my son there, but unfortunately, wasn't to be. But just I think the biggest thing I can tell you is that at full time, so, and I hate this sort of thing, but I did it myself, and I was guilty of it. I'm going to get a video of the full time whistle blown, because I want to have it there so I can go back and look at it instead of sort of replaying it in my mind. And the video is completely useless, because all it is the full time whistle going, and then all of a sudden it's basically the sky and the roof of Wembley and me screaming. And I was like, I'm not going to use that, I can't say anything. And then stopped recording and just sat down and burst into tears, just so emotional, because it was that. So I think a lot of people have said this, that when the full time whistle was blown, I went to my granddad and what he would have done back in 55 when he was there, and 52 and 51. The fact that my dad hadn't seen something like this, he is still alive. My granddad is, my dad is still around. And the fact that he'd been there in 74 and 76 and 98, 99, and hadn't seen Newcastle at Wembley. And it was that, and kind of flipping forward a couple of weeks, what War Flags did at the last home game against Brentford, where it was the Sam Fender quote, and that started me off in that game as well, because it was kind of what I think me and probably a hell of a lot of people at Wembley, when the full-time whistle was blown, we went to people that weren't there and couldn't be there for whatever reason, and it was once that sort of side of me had settled down, and you're watching the players celebrate on the pitch and lifting the cup and stuff, it was just, I've never experienced anything like that. Been really fortunate with clubs that I cover for work where they've won at Wembley, and that's emotional enough, because you kind of have a bit more of a close-up bond with them, because you get more access at non-league level. But seeing that many tens of thousands of Newcastle fans experience what we've all hoped for so long was just an incredibly emotional experience.
Yeah. Well, even at I don't know, I can't imagine what it would have been like in Wembley itself, but like I was just so emotional at home as well. We talked about it earlier, saying like in the 90s, it was like Newcastle were a good team to watch. Like they were fabulous. The entertainer period. It was just at like the top level, wasn't it? And you enjoyed watching them. And then we had a period of just, I don't know how to describe it other than just painful, like watching them play and the business behind the scenes. And it was such a difficult period for Newcastle. And I think obviously the past couple of years have been a lot better. But I don't think I expected us to have that level of success like now. Like I think I expected it to be a little bit longer, and I would say on the day, like I felt quite positive. Like I put it on Instagram, where I sneaked a bottle of champagne in the fridge, because I woke up and I was like, I'm feeling confident here, we're going to do it. And I put it in, and I didn't tell Pete because he would have made me take it out. And yeah, I was just like same as you. Like it got to a point as the game where I was like, we're going to do this. Like once Dan Burn got that cracking header in, I was like, I think we've got this. Like it's ours to lose. Like at that point, and it was just so nice to feel so confident, because you don't usually have that as a Newcastle fan, do you?
And it was strange, because on Wembley, way ahead of the game, I saw sort of 5 or 6 people that I knew from either work or good friends as well. And the one common theme that kept coming through was, because he'd been called up the England squad on the Friday, was Dan Burn's going to score. Dan Burn will score. And then you get in the stadium, you're thinking, he's not going to score, really, let's be honest. So when he did, like, there couldn't have been a more perfect goal scorer. was just it's going to sound really corny, but it was like he scored that goal for everyone. You know, if it was one of us. You know, I know people that know Dan really well, and you know, I was fortunate enough to be part of the press pack that interviewed him when he won the North East Football Writers Player of the Year. Sorry, no, he didn't. He won a Sir Bobby Robson Foundation Award at the North East Football Writers Awards earlier this year. And just the most genuine guy, like, you know, obviously a monster. I mean, I'm only 5'4", I should probably say that. So interview brought its own challenges. Yeah, very much so. I was then in 2000 at Wembley when Rob Lee scored in the FA Cup semi-final. And that was memorable because it was like we hadn't scored at Wembley since 1955. But apart from 76 when scored the League Cup final, of course. But anyway, we haven't scored since 76. And then to go ahead in the cup final and for it to be a Geordie that scores a goal, and, you know, someone that's proud to be from Blythe, who's done a lot for the local community and continues to do a staggering amount for the community. It was just such a brilliant moment. But it was also like that, okay, what now? Like, what do we do now? We're ahead. Like, it was, thankfully, the players were more in control than most of the supporters, because it was like, there was almost a shell shock settled in. And then when the second goal went in, it was, again, I remember going from like, these are going to score, these are going to score, these are going to score, to, now you know what, we're fine. We're going to be fine. And it was, didn't enjoy the 10 minutes of injury time, or 11 minutes, whatever it ended up at. And even when they scored it, I still felt reasonably calm. So it was just that, again, just fast forwarding a little bit, coming out of the stadium, the atmosphere was unbelievable. But at the same time, there was an element of what just happened. Like, we've done it. And I've always said this, and I wrote it as well, that but most of our lives we've been going, oh, imagine what it'll be like when it happens. Imagine when we win something. Imagine what it'll be like. And then all of a sudden it happens, and you just go, I don't know what to do now. And that was the conversation I had with most people was, what now? What do we do now? What do we do now? And I remember going for some food afterwards at one of the pizza places near Wembley. We sat on a table near some other Newcastle fans, and that was what everyone was saying. We just don't know what to do now. This is surreal. And that's the word I would take from the weekend. Brilliant, but surreal.
Yeah, I think that I felt that for like a good few days afterwards as well. Like, I remember on the Monday, like, I was trying to work and I couldn't, and I just kept sitting there like going, this is really bad for the podcast, but like, I'm just like, if you're watching on the YouTube video, I just kind of like kept gazing off to the side and just like, and then a big grin would appear on my face, and then I said, I just can't work. So I stopped working on the Monday. I was going to have to start working on Tuesday, and I just kept doing it all week. I was just so distracted, and it was just one of those feelings, like you say, because we've never felt it before. It felt so unusual, and I hope it's a feeling we'll become accustomed to, I'll be honest. But I think because there was a point, say like when we knew that we're going to be in the final and we knew we were going to be against Liverpool, I think there was a few weeks of people going, well, at least we got to the final again. Like, it'll be a nice day out. And then, like, and I think the Anthony Gordon red card didn't help, and people were just like, oh, here we go. This is it. This is this is where it starts going wrong. And then a couple of days before, I felt like a shift. I felt like the fans and everyone started to believe, think, do you know what? Actually, why can't we do this? So, and I think what you said about Dan Burn as well, like, out of all of the current players, I mean, obviously you've got other local lads in the team, but I feel that him being part of the leadership team and stuff, like, he was just the best person to score that goal, because he understands it. He feels like the anticipation and the pain and all of that we've had as Newcastle fans, and for him to kind of relieve that was just, I mean, he'll be living that day till the end of his life, won't he? He'll be like, what on earth happened there?
And rightly so. I think the funny thing is that I think as Geordies were seen as kind of naturally optimistic. But when it comes to the football club, we kind of learned to be pessimistic and always think the worst. But I think, sometimes when it is optimism, it's completely blind optimism, where you just go, yeah, we'll be all right. We'll do, we'll do something here. But I agree with what you said there. So the week before the game, I was working loads, and the more and more I wrote about what was coming, the more I thought, you know what, I think we're going to do this. And that was even on the morning of the game. From the minute I woke up, and I worked on the morning before, I was fortunate that I stayed about a 5-minute walk from Wembley. And from the minute I finished work and logged off, and then walked around to Wembley and saw that it was every fan you saw was a Newcastle fan. I'm not just saying that. What Liverpool fans didn't seem to turn up until later, and even if they did, it was in small patches rather than these sort of hundreds and thousands of Newcastle fans just everywhere. And the more that happened, the more I thought we can't be let down again. We can't be, because it felt as if it was our time. And what's annoyed me since is the little bit of criticism, I'll say a lot of criticism, Newcastle have had for over celebrating. And it's like, we've been waiting 70 years.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but if you can't celebrate something like that, what can you celebrate? And I think this is going to happen a lot with Newcastle in the next few years, when they go on to win other stuff, or if they go on to win other stuff, because they'll become the only club where it's only the Carabao Cup, or it's only the FA Cup, or it's only this, it's only that. It's never celebrate, because it's something that you achieved, and it was something that had to be achieved for a long time.
Yeah, that riled me up. I completely agree. But I think it was like Jamie O'Hara on someone Talkspot went on a right rampage, didn't he? And it was just like, just give it a rest. Like, honestly, like we could have won absolutely anything, and we would have celebrated in exactly the same way, no matter what cup it was. It was a moment in time that, as a region, we'd been waiting for. And actually, that's a question for you, because I think I saw a quote or an interview with Dan Burn, and he was talking about the reaction and the parade and everything like that. And they said, if there is another one, it won't be quite like that. What do you think? Like, because I thought to myself, but will it? Like, I don't know. I think we could probably celebrate just as hard for another one. Like, I think there'll be a slightly different feel to it, but I don't know. Like, what do you think?
I think because it was the first, there'll always be that special feel about it. But I think, if it's the first FA Cup to win since 1955, that's amazing, because I grew up watching FA Cup finals, and it was always a big day, and it still remains for me. And I kind of see the other side of it now, covering non-league, because I see what it means to clubs at the level I work at most of the time. If it was the Premier League, it would be the first time Newcastle have won a top flight title since 1927. So that's going to be special. If it's the Champions League or European competition, it'll be the first one since 1969. So I don't think we're at that stage yet where it'll be just taken as read, or it'll not be celebrated as much. I think it'll be for at least the next, how long, I can't say how long it'll be, but I think it'll still remain special until for a long time to come. But the comments that have come largely from the Southern press doesn't surprise me at all, particularly the kind of outlet you mentioned before, because it is just a clickbait radio station. That's what they're used for. Simple as that. It's used to get reaction, and what was said got the reaction that they wanted. So I think you've always got to be a little bit wary of that. It's something that gets thrown in the media a lot now, is it's clickbait. Well, yeah, because there's kind of argument that you have to do a bit of clickbait because you need people on your website for various reasons. But I'll go too deep into that. But with that one, it just felt so raw and so unashamed that it was almost just a bit personal. So I think that's why it got the reaction it did. And it's just no need for it, really. Just let's enjoy ourselves. It's what we do best.
Yeah, I agree. And just let us celebrate how we bloody want to, and just shut up.
When you were with Mark down at Wembley, did the Geordies do were proud? Were the good lads and lasses when they were there?
I mean, that's always your worry, isn't it? When you get such a large collection of travelling support, that there may be things going on that shouldn't go on. But maybe I'm blind to it, but I didn't say anything like that. I think everyone went for a good time, and everyone certainly had a good time. I got down to Wembley on Saturday at about 7:00, 8:00, and went into Covent Garden, which was an experience. Never seen so many bottles and cans lying around on the floor, but it all got tidied up, which was great. Everyone was just enjoying themselves, and it was quite funny watching locals. I thought, I wonder if there's anyone, a couple from down south that aren't into football, that have planned a date night in Covent Garden that night. And just thinking, like, that would be hilarious. Like, genuinely hilarious. And there were people walking around, and you could see a few of them getting a bit snippy, but only because clearly the night had been ruined by about 10,000 Geordies in such a small space. But the atmosphere was overwhelmingly positive throughout the weekend. I didn't see any problems, and people just enjoyed themselves. I think after, like you said, I mean, it's funny what you were saying before about the difficult period the clubs had, because I was trying to put it in sort of in a balanced aspect, because I've reported on clubs that have gone under. I think that's real trouble, whereas Newcastle have never really been under that threat. But the one thing they have been devoid of for times in the past sort of 13, 14, 15 years is a bit of hope. And I think that's now back. And whatever you think of the current ownership situation, I don't think it should be put on fans to make that decision. They just want to love the football club and love the players and the manager. And they certainly did that weekend.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's a difficult topic, isn't it? But it's something that it has given us hope that we haven't had for so long. So do you think that now we've had this hope and now we've had a cup win, do you think there'll be more? Do you think we'll have more success in the next few years?
I think there's been, across the club, there's been a big mental barrier broken down by it, because it was always that, he's haven't won anything, he's haven't done this, he haven't done that. Now all of a sudden, and again, it will be thrown at them, it is just the Carabao Cup, but I always go back to Jose Mourinho said the Carling Cup, as it was back then. I think that was his biggest trophy that he won at Chelsea, and then he went on to win the Premier League, FA Cup, and same with Jurgen Klopp when he was talking about his last trophy at Liverpool was the Carabao Cup last season, and he got a lot of stick for that. It's only the Carabao Cup, and he's like, the people that are saying that, the people that haven't won it. So it's like, I get it, but I do think now they've got over the line, they will know how, on the pitch and off the pitch, they'll know how to deal with situations like that in the past. There'll be more of a learning curve as well when it's in sort of, if it's a Premier League title race, they will, I don't think they'll go and do it straight away. They'll have to learn how to get over the line in the title race in the same way, Man City have done in the past when all their money came in, or how Liverpool took 30 odd years of falling short and then won the Premier League title sort of during COVID. So it's really, it feels like a big mental block has been cleared, and it's not going to be easy because there's a lot of good teams around and a lot of money flying around, obviously at the top end of the game now. But I think they're in a far better mental state to go and attack other competitions now.
Yeah, I hope so. I think you, like you say, that they've got good. Well, obviously they've got good players, and hopefully this summer we might bring some more in. But I think it wasn't necessarily the talent; it was more the belief, and I think the fact that we've got over that hurdle and they know that they can do it and they can have success. I think hopefully that'll mean more will come.
Absolutely. The guys, the players on the pitch, and Eddie and his staff are like the legends now. They're the ones that broke this long wait, and that can only give them more confidence in their ability and the methods that they've got in place. And this has to be a start point. It can't be the end of it. It's got to be the start of hopefully a brighter future for the club, no matter what happens over the coming years.
What do you think is actually, like, just thinking about football culture, like, as a whole in the Northeast, what do you think it is that makes it so special? Because I think it feels very much like it's ingrained in our DNA DNA, really, isn't it? There's some parts of the country that it's not, but in the northeast it feels as though it is. Obviously, you see a lot of the clubs outside of Newcastle as well. What do you think it is that brings that about?
I think it's because we are largely, and we, when all of us have been growing up, we've grown up in largely working class communities, and going back to the sort of 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, we were brought up with parents or grandparents that worked in coal mines, and their big release at the end of the week was going to watch the football, and I think that's a big part of it, because when you're doing such a difficult job and such a manual sort of labour in that sense, you need a release, you need something like that. I think that's where it comes from, and it's that because of the communities that were built up through coal mining, and whether it's Tyneside, Wearside, Campbell, Northumberland, wherever. There's always been, and I think we're losing it. A much deeper conversation to be had here, but I think we're losing that aspect of community pride, and I think that's the football clubs at the heart of that. We love, we're proud of what our football clubs do. Might not always go in their favour, results won't always go the way. That's football, but I think it's that sense of belonging to something, and that sense of the pride and something central to all of us, and having that release. And I think that's probably the best way I can sum it up. I do think it's the community aspect and that sense of belonging. I really do.
Mark, what do you think of the ladies' team and the women playing football? I went to watch them the other day when they were in the played at St James's, and it was really good actually. They played really well.
For far too long, the Newcastle United Women's team has been undervalued by, and I'm not going to name him, but the previous owner and his regime. There was a point not that long ago when the players were actually paying subs to play for Newcastle United, but now, they've been brought in under the umbrella officially. They've been run properly. They've got, they're a full-time professional team, which is very rare in the Championship. They were full-time in the division that they've just won, or they won last season. Things are being done properly, and when you look at the crowd for the Sunderland game, 37,000 is incredible. I honestly think there will be a point at some point in the future where they will sell out St James's. I think that's the way it's heading. I think we'll see a 52,000 capacity crowd for a women's game. And I think when you look at Becky Langley, they've got a great manager there, someone that knows the game inside out. They've obviously been financially backed by the owners and the leadership group at Newcastle. I believe Eddie's got a good relationship with Becky Langley, and they discuss things quite often. So I can only see them going one way. The one thing I would say, and a kind of word of caution, is that the jump from the league they're in now to the Super League, Women's Super League, WSL, is phenomenal. It's a massive jump in standards on and off the pitch. So they may take time to get there, hopefully not, but they're going to be backed along the way, which is fantastic to see. To bring it back down to a personal level, so my daughter, I was saying, she's a 6-year-old, she came out of school, I picked her up when I got back from Wembley on the Monday, and she came out of school, and the first thing, she's not showing any interest in football, even though my son's crazy about it. Obviously I do it for work, and it's been a passion of mine. And the first thing she said is, our teachers just let us watch the highlights from the cup final. And she was like, I want a Newcastle United t-shirt with my name and age on the back. And she's now doing football lessons on a Thursday night. So she's been tonight to do them. And she wants to go to one of the women's games, which is amazing. So I think when we talk about the impact that men and women that play for the football club have, that just sums it up for me.
Yeah, I think that's such a lovely representation of it, isn't it? Because it's like, yeah, I think so many people probably lost interest in Newcastle for so many years with all of the stuff going on, and the women's team wouldn't even get a mention, whereas the last, say, I don't know how long has it been, like 4 years or something, I can't remember, but like it's put a spotlight on regional football again, and that's only a positive in my eyes. I mean, I've got friends who their daughters are absolutely football mad. My eldest, like, she loves watching it. Like, she doesn't play it, but some of my friends' children, they play in local teams and stuff, and it's just such a big thing now, and it's nice to have that back, because I think there was this level of pride and just I suppose, genuine interest that just dissipated for a little while, and it's coming back, and it's nice to see it in our children now. And it's just, I hope it improves.
Well, we talk about community pride tomorrow. Well, on Friday after recording this, is the last day of term before Easter, and the school that my son and daughter go to, they do at the end of towards the last day before Christmas, last day before the end of term, and the school year as a whole, the last day before Easter term. Easter holidays start. They always do a thing called Songs on the Yard, where they finish early, and all the whole school will be stood there singing in this sort of auditorium thing they've got. And tomorrow they're doing, but a lot of them are sort of Newcastle United songs or terrace chants, or so my daughter came in before, and I'll share the video with you, singing the Bladen Races, and did it perfect. So I managed to record it to send to my mum and dad. So I'm looking forward to that tomorrow.
That'll be nice. You can teach her the Dan Byrne chant. Get it a start that.
She already knows that. Yeah, I think that may well be in it. Honestly. So it's a really
the dance going.
Yeah, my son can do that. I've got a video of him doing that. I can't dance, no matter how much I drink. I can't dance, but no, she. I think that kind of indicates that wouldn't have happened without the Carabao Cup final win. So I think that when we talk about a lasting impact, that's a kind of short, sharp hit of it straight away.
The only positives I've seen so far, and I just hope it continues. I really do.
I'm sure it will.
Touching on the other teams again, and I'm very aware that we've focused a lot on Newcastle this chat, but are there any lesser known clubs or grounds that you think deserve more attention in the media?
The non-league game as a whole, everyone's going to have their favourite clubs that they like visiting for whatever reason, whether it's a local one in the community or whatever. But the non-league scene as a whole, I think, when we look at where football is at the top end of the game, there's a big distance between players and supporters, and that's only got worse over the last sort of 20 years, I would say. And I look at non-league, it's a really cliche thing to say, and I apologise for that, but you can't literally go to a player at the end of the game, or a manager or a chairman, and have a conversation with them. It's kind of how I remember football being when I first got into it, when I was 5, 6, 7, 8 year old. It's such a, these are lads largely who are working class. They go to work through the week. They train twice a week. They don't get paid extortionate amounts of money. They play because they love it. I'm not going to lie, there are clubs that pay a lot of money for part-time players, but they do it because they love it. And it's such an all-inclusive environment where, if you go along and pay whatever it'll be, £5, £10, £15, whatever it is to get in, that every penny of that will go back into the club and will help that club. So you're always going to be appreciated. So I always use them as an example, and it's purely because they're quite close to where I live. If you've got a club like Heaton Stannington, who are, they're based 3 miles away from St James's Park, yet their crowds have gone up and up and up. And they had a crowd a couple of seasons ago. I know compared to Newcastle, this won't sound a lot, but they had a crowd of 2,300 in a reasonably small ground, which is amazing. So they're such a great club and a great example of what can be done when the community gets behind our non-league clubs. There are others, I will say, just in case I start getting stick for not pushing all clubs, but we are very lucky. I mean, we've got some brilliant clubs up here, none more so than having a tough time at the minute. But I owe everything to Blythe Spartans. The support that I got, and the grounding and working in the media or involved with the media at the club was phenomenal, and I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now without them. So to see them going through a tough time now is really difficult, and I hope they get back on their feet and moving forwards again soon. But they're now going back to community. They're now community owned as well, so that the local community actually are in control of the club instead of a businessman or whoever else. But we're very blessed to have a good non-league scene up here. Probably I'd say the best in the country, but I am massively biased as well. So
possibly, but I'm going to take your word for it, because
I take my son to games with me, and the welcome he gets from players and managers and supporters is phenomenal. So he started doing little post-match interviews with players and managers because he wants to at the moment he's only 10, but he said that he would like to become a journalist. And worrying thing is that he's actually very good at it. So I think, he will. I keep telling him jokingly, sort of, that in about 10 years' time he could have my job and I'll live off him for the rest of my life.
Hell yeah. That's why we have kids, isn't it?
Well, exactly. So that's the long-term plan. But it's just it's an honour to cover the non-league scene and to try and give as much of a voice to clubs as I can and try and get more and more coverage in the the Chronicle, Sunday Sun, Sunderland Echo, Shield, they're all brilliant with the non-league coverage. I also write for the national non-league paper, trying to get as much North East coverage in there as I can. There's always something to talk about, and it's as I say, it keeps us busy, keeps me out of trouble, as the missus would say.
Fabulous. Should we move on to the quick fire questions now, Angela?
Yeah, do you want me to go first?
Go on then.
I feel nervous about
it. Got some really hard ones for you.
Let's have a look. Favourite current football player?
Oh, it seems very easy to say Dan Burn, doesn't it? But I would say Bruno. I think just an incredible person, incredible human being, and for all that he's competitive on the pitch, and he can have his darker side in terms of on the pitch. Just a genuine, lovely person off it, and someone that's just absolutely got what the football club means to the fans, and seems to have taken it to his heart as well.
Out of all of the people who've come into the club in the past 4 years or so, he feels like the one that's become a Geordie. He's feels like he's embodied the region and the club, hasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why, no matter what happens with him in the future, he'll just always be loved here. Absolutely loved.
Yeah, I think so. I've actually thought of a new one that's not on my list, so I'm going to sneak that one in, Angela.
Oh, go on then.
Out of the current Newcastle squad, which one would you think is probably the most undervalued?
It's a hard one, isn't it?
It's a really difficult question, because I think there are some that probably don't get the credit they deserve, because they're not the Brunos or the Isaacs or the Gordons. But I think the easiest one to say is probably Jacob Murphy, because I don't think people realise how good he's been this season, and he's in a position where Newcastle need to strengthen. And I think they will strengthen in the summer. But when you look at what he's done this season, it's been incredible, and his attitude is unbelievable. Speaking to people around the club that I know, they say he's one of the hardest trainers, and just seems like, again, and they could probably say this about a lot of them, just a genuinely nice guy.
I love Jacob Murphy. He's probably like him and Dan Burn. I just love them a bit. And I think I saw a stat. I think they've talked about it on Monday Night Football when they said he's third behind Mo Salah and Isak, isn't he, for goal contributions this season? But I think he's just been since December as well, which is it's just absolutely amazing. For being someone who you would class as a squad player a couple of years ago, from going from that to this, it's just amazing.
Just incredible. And he was probably one of the ones that people thought when the takeover happened would be moved on and wouldn't be what he is now, but he's become, I'd argue, one of the most important players in the squad because of what he brings, away from the playing side. I think he's a good character. He's someone that probably puts a bit of life into the group as well. Not that they need sort of Bruno around, but I think it's he's just a bigger player than I think people maybe thought he would be. And when you look at next season, there will be new signings made in the summer, but I think he'll be one that will stick around and play a big part next season as well.
Yeah, I think so. I hope so. And everyone just says how much he smiles and stuff. You need that positive energy, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Infectious.
Next question. What's your favourite hidden gem in the North East, somewhere people should know about?
Oh, wow. Probably a pub.
Man after my own heart.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's not a hidden gem, and I will think of one, but I love the beach in and around Bamburgh Castle. I spent a lot of my childhood up there, and going up to see houses and Armel and places like that with my mum and stepdad. And that beach is just, you could put that anywhere in the world, it would be incredible. It's not always warm, obviously, it wouldn't be. But yeah, I love it. In terms of a pub, I'm never sure where it is. It's not the one in town, I will say that. But the Beehive, I think, is it in Plaster Seaton, Sluice Delbo, around that way?
Oh, yeah, Seaton.
Yeah, that's one of my favourite pubs to go to, and generally followed by a walk along the coast, along the long sands, maybe. But yeah, it's not a hidden gem. It's a really terrible answer, I guess. But I would certainly say Bamburgh Beach is just incredible.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah. I mean, it's just stunning, isn't it? Yeah. I need to go back. I haven't been in ages. So what is your favourite local dish?
Oh, that is a good question. I know I'm going to make a big confession. I don't like peas pudding.
What?
I don't either. It's Angela, come on. It's awful.
Yes. It's black bullets, it's not really a dish, but I always remember when I was younger having, my mum would kill me if she hears this, but my stepdad used to make pineapple a lot. And I just always remember that in a autumn, winter, having that when I got in from school when it was freezing outside and the nights were coming, as my nana would say. Yeah, so I'd probably go for that.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong with that, can you?
Now I think about it, but yeah, I'd probably say
So this is not on my list, but I always ask it everybody to see if they're a true Geordie.
Oh.
Do you know what a cracket is?
A cracket? I don't think I can even guess what that is.
Have a guess.
Cracket. Is it pub related? It seems like a natural one to go to.
Well, it could be. It could. But it's more in a home.
No.
No.
Is it a bed?
Should I tell you?
Be scratching, isn't it? But go on then.
No. A cracket is a wooden seat that you often find next to open fire. So my grandma used to have one and say, well, Angie, you need to sit your arse on there. You'll get it nice and warm on the cracket.
All right, okay. I didn't know that. So there now, though.
Neither did I.
That's right.
Every day is a learning day. So, we're nearly there. What is your go-to Greg's order?
Depends on time of day. Depends on the time of day. If it's a morning, then I would go for a bacon and sausage baguette. Big fan of those. Hence the extra weight I'm trying to lose during the summer. Lunchtime. I don't mind a classic steak bake. Got to be honest. And I could live on the caramel fudge donuts, so that would be it. I would say probably a steak bake. I'll go.
Yeah, can't go wrong with that.
And it's more Scottish, but an iron brew as well, because I love iron brew.
Do you know, I've not had one of those in years.
Love it.
And if you know anybody that's in Greg's, Mark, we want to be sponsored by them.
All right, okay. I'll see what I can do.
Fabulous. So, before we say goodbye, is there anything else that you'd like to say or share? Any kind of upcoming projects or anything that you'd like people to be aware of?
No, what I will do is I'll say, so I'm an ambassador for a North East mental health charity called If You Can Share Foundation. It's based in just outside of Chesley Street. So they, you may have saw one of the co-founders, Matty Smith, last year ran from Bournemouth's Vitality Stadium to St James's Park via all, the other 18 Premier League grounds. So Matty's one of the most incredible human beings I've ever met. His family started the foundation after he lost his older brother to suicide, and the whole aim of the foundation is to provide support to families that have been impacted by suicide, to provide support. They also work with football clubs, sports clubs, youth clubs, businesses to provide sort of well-being sessions. Just an incredible charity, an incredible group of people that have put something together very special out of one of the darkest moments I think anyone could ever experience. So just be to give them a push. You can check them out at ifyoucareshare.co.uk. They're on social media, as you probably see them on mine, at ifyoucareshare, and the U is with a U as well, not the word you. So I'm very proud. I've been an ambassador now for, I think it's over 7 years. I think this might be my commitment to doing this, but me and Matthew did discuss, I don't know what I'm doing this. Me and Matthew did discuss the possibility of doing the 3 peaks next year for the foundation.
Yeah.
But I've done it before when I was, I know, well, I did it back in 2013, I think it was. Did it for Parkinson's UK, because my grandfather, he had Parkinson's before he passed away in 1993. And I did it back then when I was probably about 2 stone lighter and certainly a lot younger. But yeah, no, I think that's it. Just committed to it now, haven't I? I'll have to ring
You have.
So
it's in public domain now.
It is. That could be managed.
And maybe we could have him on. We could maybe have him on the show as well.
100%, Mark. You'll come on. 100%. I love it.
Yeah, we'd love to chat about that.
One of the most inspirational guys I've ever met. He's a bit younger than me, and he's just been through so much in life, but has such an amazing view of everything. Is so positive, and nothing's ever too much. Just a great human being, and it's a genuine honour to be his friend. And but the last time we were out together, it wasn't so much an honour then, but yeah, we spent about 10 hours in the stack, but the less said about that the better. But no, it's just a great person, and I've got no doubt he would come on and speak to you and tell you everything about the foundation in far better terms than I can.
Yeah, I would love that. And yeah, well, I'll add the link to that foundation as well in the show notes. And yeah, we can pop your handles in there as well, Mark, for people who want to come along and check you out as well. So fabulous. Thank you so much for taking a good chunk of your evening out to chat to me and Angela tonight. We've really enjoyed it. And yeah, I appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support Geordie Pride further, then don't forget to subscribe, share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from us, you can follow us on Instagram @Geordie Pride. Until next time, keep that Geordie Pride shining bright.